The original Pulsar was responsible for turning commuters into enthusiasts for the riding revolution amongst the millennials. Now we have a new Pulsar, the Pulsar P150. And the question in front of it remains pretty much the same. Can it bring a smile on the everyday commuter's face? Hi, my name is Dhruv Paliwal, you're watching AutoX, and today we're riding the new Bajaj Pulsar P150. Okay, talking about design, I think the Pulsar's looks have obviously come a long way from where things started. Here there used to be a round headlamp right here, and then obviously things changed and we are here today. And the design language is more in line with what we see from Bajaj, from their other motorcycles as well. So that's a good thing. It's instant familiarity with the Bajaj brand, and obviously this looks sporty, this looks nice, and has been doing well for Bajaj for a long time. So the looks of the motorcycle, especially at the front, I'm very satisfied with. This headlamp over here, it's a projector LED unit. Obviously at night it looks damn nice. As you move towards the side, you have this nice, bulky, chunky fuel tank. The speedometer, I must say, has been kept pretty simple. It's been kept pretty analog. It's the same infinity cluster as Bajaj likes to call it. But I'd like this one thing, that it's very clear in what it's trying to do. The speed, it's on one side, it's very easily readable by your eyes. The tacho, which should be the main reading that most motorcycle riders will need, is bang on in the center, and all your warning lights, all your instrumentation lights are on the left hand side. So I think it's been very well put together. Yes, it's not an all-out digital affair like most motorcycles today, but honestly I don't mind that. I think it looks very sharp over here, and I think Bajaj has done a good job of integrating it over here really well. Next up, let's come towards the seat. Now this is a stepped seat. Now this is the dual disc variant, the twin disc variant of the Pulsar P150. We'll tell you about the other one also just in a little while. But over here you get this stepped up twin seat, and you also have a storage area underneath the seat over here. Let me just show you. There's enough space for you to keep your registration papers, and the battery is also accessed from here, and also maybe just you can fit in a toolkit, but not much more than that. Now as you remove the second part of the seat, you can see there's small bits of space over here as well, and honestly not a lot. You can probably only again keep your toolkit or something very thin, not much more. When you remove the seat, you also notice the mounting point for the rear monoshock suspension. We'll come to that in a bit. So that's done with the seat. Let me just put it back. There and there. I think it's a very easy to pull apart and then put it back together kind of a seat. You don't have to do a lot of effort, as I've just shown you. Now as you move towards the rear of the motorcycle, you'll see those similar Pulsar tail lamps here, those two strips of lighting. And over here the light is there, the strips are there, but they've been giving a slight kink to differentiate this from the older generation models. The indicators on all four ends are regular halogen bulbs, and if you'd seen on the NS, the most sporty version of the Pulsar, you get a tire hugger, but over here Pulsar, the Bajaj, what they've done is that they've given you a longer mud guard over here, so that all the water, all the mud, all the whatever's there on the road doesn't come back onto your clothes. So that's done with the design of the Pulsar. Now let me just show you a little bit more about the switchgear and what the quality of the motorcycle is like. Now Bajaj is offering the Pulsar P150 in two variants. That's the single disc and the twin disc. The one you have in front of you right now, it's the twin disc. Let's talk about the single disc version. That's around 3,000 rupees cheaper than this one. Over there you get a tubular handlebar. Instead of a disc brake at the rear, you get a drum brake. And lastly, the seat, which is a split seat over here, is a single continuous seat in case of the single disc version. Those are the changes. The colors and everything, they remain the same. Okay, as far as quality of things on the motorcycle go, Bajaj has done a good job of making sure that the Pulsar packs in the basics, and it's been rightly done. Nothing feels cheap or flimsy or about to break over here. But there is one problem that I have with this. that the mirrors, I mean, they're very stiff, and that's a good thing because when you're out on the highway and when you're at triple digit speeds, you don't want your mirrors flopping about. So keeping them stiff from this point, that's a good thing. But when I was trying to adjust these mirrors, I could see that my clip-on bars were moving over here, which is not a very reassuring feeling. I think that's the one small thing. Either this is just, they've just come off the production line, these could be pre-production motorcycles, we're not really sure about that. But that's one problem I don't want to see on my motorcycle, where if I'm trying to adjust the mirror, the clip-on bars are moving along with it, and along with that, the entire bunch of controls. Apart from that, all touch points on the motorcycle seem to be of quality. The switch gear feels nice and snappy to use. It doesn't feel rickety, it doesn't feel loose. I think it's been put together really well. Also, Bajaj is offering a USB charging port right here next to the fuel tank, and obviously as far as conveniences go, this is pretty much it. But it is a healthy option because a lot of people like to tour on their motorcycles, even if they are smaller capacity motorcycles like this Pulsar P150. You can mount a phone over here and then you can simply charge it, use your navigation, whatever you need to answer calls. All of those things can be easily taken care of. So you won't run out of battery when you're out riding your motorcycle. Now, as far as the riding experience of the Pulsar P150 is concerned, let me start by talking about the engine. It's a 150cc motor, makes about 14 brake horsepower, 13.5 Newton meters of torque. And the one good thing here is that torque is spread out all throughout the rev range, right down from low down from 2000, 3000 RPM, right all the way up to the 7000, 8000, 9000 RPM. You find that torque has been evenly spread out and there is shove anywhere whenever you twist the throttle. So that's a good thing. That means that rideability in city traffic, out on highways, everywhere will be pretty good. As far as vibrations go, Bajaj has done a very good job of making sure that this motor stays vibe free for most of its rev range. It's only when you start nearing the red line that you start feeling some vibrations through the pegs or the tank. Apart from that, this engine is a very good motor to use, and as it does not feel very stressed, I think it will be a very fuel efficient motor as well. Next up, we have the transmission. It's a 5-speed unit, obviously, and this transmission, it's very slick. The gears, they slot in very easily. I think the mechanical gates are very well defined, so with the slightest of shifts, your foot knows that you have shifted, you have slotted perfectly into the next gear. The ratios are well spaced out. You pretty quickly get up to 60, 70. I think that's what this motorcycle is made for. And yes, a slightly taller fifth gear would have meant that you could cruise a little more easily on the highway. But I think what Bajaj is trying to do here is keep the performance accessible in all gears. And on that front, no matter which gear you are in, if you're around 5000 RPM, just twist the throttle and the bike moves forward pretty efficiently. I have one problem though, and that's with the clutch. The clutch use, it's pretty nice. You can actually bang down the gears very easily if you're trying to come to a hard stop. But if you, like me, like to hold your handlebars a little bit on the outside, and then the lever is kind of swinging away from you, and trying to get to the lever is a bit of a stretch. Although the friction zone on this clutch is towards the beginning only, so you do not have to pull in the clutch a lot, but just to be able to pull it in, you have to stretch out with your fingers, and that does get a bit too much, especially in traffic conditions. Alright, now let me talk about the riding position of the Pulsar P150, and I think it's a straightforward, very upright position, at least for the upper body. You do not have to lean forward a lot to be able to reach the bars, these clip-on handlebars. So that means that when you're riding it in city traffic, you will not end up feeling very tired. As far as the foot peg position goes, it is slightly rear set. You can see that this bend that your leg is creating over here will mean that you are in a slightly more aggressive, a slightly more slanted down position when it comes to gripping the tank. So I think that's a very good combination, that your upper body stays light, loose, relaxed, whereas your lower body is nicely tucked in, it's locked onto the tank, so that you have maximum control over the motorcycle. It's one of the positions that will neither tire you too much and it will still give you a lot of control over the motorcycle. So that's a really good thing. As far as the suspension goes, you've got these twin telescopic forks at the front. You've got a monoshock at the rear for the first time on a Pulsar P150, and obviously the performance over here is being kept on the comfortable side. Both the front and the rear suspension are capable of soaking in rough stuff. They were taking speed breakers. I was trying to jump the motorcycle over speed breakers. They were taking the impacts pretty well. But all of that is not coming at the cost of performance in the middle of a corner. Yes, this is not the most stiffly set up motorcycle. If you lean it too far much, and I think the tires will not allow you to lean it that way, is where you'll find the suspension to be too soft. But in regular conditions where you're not leaning it over too much, the bike stays planted. It does not move around too much. And I think the slight soft nature of the suspension also helps when you encounter a pothole or a stone or anything mid-corner. The suspension very easily helps you soak all of that up without upsetting the balance of the motorcycle. Next up, we have the brakes, and I think the braking power on this Pulsar is adequate. Initially, I found it to be a little bit lacking, but once you go hard on the brakes, the Pulsar comes to a stop very quickly. In fact, if you go too hard on the brakes, as you can see in some of the videos, you end up pulling a stoppie, and obviously the ABS is only on the front disc, it's not on the rear, so you can slide it around as well, which obviously adds to the fun quotient of the Pulsar P150. As far as braking feel is concerned, that's where I'm a little bit let down. I think the brakes, they feel very wooden. You do not really get a sense of what's happening down there and how much braking pressure to apply. So you'll only be able to understand the Pulsar's braking over time and over kilometers of riding this motorcycle. But if I have to talk about initial impressions, the brakes, they do rob you of a little confidence just because they feel a tad bit wooden. Lastly, let me just talk about the tires. I think the tires are a step down from what they used to be on the Pulsar in terms of their size. And yes, when you're trying to push the Pulsar a lot in the corners, you do sometimes feel that a thicker tire would have probably given you a little bit more confidence. But the fact that these are thinner but have a more rounded profile means that the Pulsar is very playful in corners. It likes to dart in, lean in very quickly, and you can pull it back up very quickly as well. So depending on how you like your motorcycle to behave in the corners, the Pulsar might or might not work for you. But it is a relatively stable motorcycle, that I will say. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. And what I think the Pulsar with this new generation, the P150, what Bajaj is trying to do is pretty much the same what they were trying to do with the first generation Pulsar. And that is to make sure that the commuter can get from point A to point B in relative comfort, make sure that their ride is easy on their pockets, and at the same time, offer them a little bit of fun, offer them a little bit of sportiness. Now obviously when Pulsar was first trying to do this, it was one of the very few motorcycles that was actually there to do it. Today there are a lot of motorcycles in this segment, there are a lot of manufacturers which are vying for a piece of the pie, and that is why it remains to be seen if the Pulsar can overshadow them, all of them, with its performance or not. And how is it actually when you compare it with its rivals? I think we leave that for the comparison. Thank you so much for watching this video, and until the next one, goodbye.
Switch.